this one is, I think, this is the largest data breach happened in Sri Lanka, and ironically, it happened to a bank. Udara data also has been part of that particular breach.
Really huge number of information inside that almost 2 TB storage, right?
Yeah, this
Hmm.
this is not just like couple of users personally identified by like IP addresses or username or passwords that's been exposed. This is users national identity card photos, license photos, and their physical locations of their homes, and like, so yeah, so these days we been hearing a lot of news about some kind of a. I think it's one of the huge data breaches happened in Sri Lanka, and I think that is the first one. If we compare the past data breaches that we have heard about, the data sizes and all, this one is, I think, this is the largest data breach happened in Sri Lanka, and ironically, it happened to a bank. I think by the time that we are recording this episode, 20th of April, I think most of y'all heard about the Cargills data breach, and there were like a couple of things happened after that, and the way the bank behaved after the data breach, and the so-called media and everyone else behaved after that incident. We were kind of wanted to talk about that specific event, but we waited for a couple of days in order to get the heat kind of down, and also to do some real background search on this particular incident. But to be honest, we were not able to find a lot of um, garbage into this situation. But still, we will talk about a couple of things in related to this incident. So yeah, this is Aprender podcast, and this is our 92 episode. I'm your host Kanishka.
Hi, I'm Udara.
So welcome to another episode of Aprender podcast. So yeah,
Well,
let's get started. Right, Iborn.
I born. Yeah. Maja. So I need to like small thing. I need to like put a disclaimer that we don't want or we don't intend to damage any brands or any like commercially or publicly valued company. But if in the sake of knowing such incidents will really help to prevent any like loose points or any what do you call any weaknesses that as end users of such organizations or the customers of such organizations for the users perspective, this discussion will like unlock certain things or certain key things that you might need to be aware of when it comes to security and online safety, when it comes to especially when it comes to banking and everything. So yeah, that disclaimer I need to put on before we going ahead with this episode, because what we have planned today have like really reputed brands having certain troubles in the past and more recently regarding their data like handling or manipulation or data what do you call data security basically. So yeah, Anshika Machang, I just needed to put that disclaimer on because we do not intend to damage any brand values or any or spread any misinformation. As Kanishka mentioned, we waited for like until this heat goes down so we have more information and what we wanted to know, the things that we are gonna explain to you guys also. So yeah, that disclaimer will be put on. Before the most recent one with Cargills Bank, I in previous like last 2 to 3 years, many data breaches happened in Sri Lanka, right? So the point is, Majang, a lot of guys don't even know about this, right? So yeah, before going to the most recent incident, let's like do a recap on how our Sri Lanka's online presence with users' data and its breaches happen. Like let's explain it like a timeline. So let's start with the beloved Helakuru's payment gateway.
Yeah, pay here, pay.
PayHere. Yeah,
So
yeah.
until recently, that pay here incident occurred back in 2022. That was the largest uh, data breach to date back in 2022. But this Cargill Bank, it just passed that uh, data breach, and it became number one right now. So back in 2022, I think we were I think even you and me, Udara data also has been part of that particular breach, right? Because we found out later on after that incident gone viral and that's been made public. That's when we realized that, oh shit, our banking data and our credentials, IP addresses, and also our debit card numbers as well, those being leaked. And compared to that incident and this Cargill Bank recent data breach, I think PayHere, they have handled that particular incident very well, from my opinion, because if I can recall, they were pretty much like really transparent about what happened. They even initiated like a public statement saying what happened, and even right now, if we can go to their website, we can find out the reason behind that particular data breach and what was the actions they have taken in order to prevent something like that from happening in the future. So that type of transparency they have kept. If I can recall that report, like that data breach indicates over 1.5 million user records, and also I think back in 2022 we didn't have like Personal Data Protection Act in Sri Lanka is enforced as well. So it was all in. By that time, I'm not sure whether the regulations were there to protect users' personally identifiable information. Right to that.
Yeah, yeah, Macha. So back in the day, like the pay here data breach was like really made the awareness, so made the head turn on tech persons only, I think, because if you take from outside of Sri Lanka, there were like many data breaches happen. Like I can recall like PlayStation data breach, that was like one of the huge thing. They just basically handed the user data and even credit card details of all the PlayStation network, and that basically broke the company, almost broke the company to the ground, which is Sony. But when it comes to the main issue, that I need to highlight a small point, the main issue was with Sony and PlayStation data breach was that they were pretty quiet about their data breach, and they were not acknowledging such incident, and they just want to cover that up to protect their brand value. But when it comes to pay here, they were pretty transparent about it. They basically acknowledged that this was happened and this was like a really bad thing. And I think as a tech person lives with the daily fear of getting hacked or being online presence, having like a security awareness running background on our heads, that was like pretty relieving, because if you're a victim, the thought process will be really vast. Like, what will happen to my credit card details, my bank details? So, will they hack me? I just had to, if I'm a victim, I just had to like live in a constant fear of not knowing what will happen next. But what PayHere did was they were pretty transparent about it. I'm not like whitewashing or cleaning PayHere brand, but when it comes to such incident, this was the way, because at that point that data was already gone. I mean, already handed over to a certain illegal third party. Yeah, being at least being transparent with their user base was actually a really good thing that PayHere did, I think. Right, Masha?
So I think one of the main reasons that some of our data was disclosed, but I think they were following payment card industry standard related controls. So they are required to encrypt half of the debit card, credit card numbers, and show like a partial number, not the whole number. I think those were one of the like technical controls that they have already implemented into their databases in order to protect the data, the user's data. But still, I think it got leaked. But still, it's not something that we can. That kind of shit happens. Like it's happening twice in a row in the same country for that same specific kind of a domain or industry is kind of like a black mark, right?
Yeah, yeah. At the same time, Machang, the thing was when it comes to like payment gateways, like online payment portals, Payeer was like one of the pioneers and one of the first to serve a end-to-end payment gateway to businesses and end users. So as victims, as users, or as organization that use Payeer, used to use Payeer as their payment gateway, actually they didn't had any other choice to go like, okay, Payeer, you are done. I'm moving with this one. I mean, there were no such payment gateways to choose from. when it comes to end users, actually the organization that use that payment gateway. But fast forwarding to 2025, now it's the space was really good. Like every single bank is having their own payment gateway. Now the area is populated, but still, I think in Sri Lanka, like entrepreneurs or startups have to use a payment gateway. If you want to do a like e-commerce or online business, then the online payment portal most probably will be a pay here one, because they just really made it easy to implement into a new business. So yeah, I'm not saying that abandon pay here or don't use pay here, but pay here was the only option, but now you have multiple options. So that was better for end users, because now since the payment gateway space is more populated, then they have to do like really competitive things to like enhance their security or offer certain things or reduce their charges and everything. So now after like 3 to 4 years, end users are really thriving with the development the payment gateway, like the industry or the platforms are having. But yeah, the point is that pay here was facing that issue, that data breach, and they were really transparent about it. But to be honest, as end users or the organization, they didn't had any other choice to rather than moving along with pay here. But now they have really good options, and I think pay here now being really secured and more cautious about user end users and user data, right?
Yeah, like if you look at the history of those incidents, there are like, let's say we can take. I hope you can remember when we were during COVID, we started using Zoom, right? And as soon as we started using Zoom, it had some lot of like security issues, where some of the guest users can actually take control of the host access and make changes to the existing meeting and draw some kind of illustrations of the whiteboard and turn on the camera, stuff like that. They had some that type of privacy issues and security issues back then. But I think Zoom was one of the um, very first like communication, that type of a communication applications we got, apart from Microsoft Team and Skype back then. But they were really like got popular, and even though they had that type of security issues, they really changed and up their game and changed the whole interfaces and the experience of the user, including the security and the privacy and everything else. They really did a really good job, and I think right now Zoom is the only like communication provider or like a communication provider out there who's having like a partnership with Apple as well, right? They have
Yeah,
their own partnership with Apple, where they have exclusive access to Apple's APIs to integrate into the Apple ecosystem right now. So they are doing a pretty good job. So like if we look at the history of the incidents happened in the past, some of those incidents have made the product kind of a better, and it made trustworthy to the end user as well. So I think when it comes to this pay here incidents as well, that sort of kind of became their turning point in order to be more conscious about security and to increase the trustworthiness from their user base, right?
yeah, yeah. Like Zoom, when Zoom got popular, like there were already like options to do basic video calling, like Skype was there. What basically every single app having video call options, but the thing that made Zoom stand out was it was pretty simple. You just don't even have to create an account to use that. So they really what do you call master that space, and they even got special partnership with Apple and also. But I think I'm not spreading a conspiracy, but I think that the whole controversial with Zoom was started back when all the video calling and video conferencing tools were back in the day. When Zoom came to the play, it was based on US. Then Zoom came out of nowhere from China. That being like more political
Yeah, yeah.
backlash, yeah, rather than actual technical aspect of it.
We did an episode, right, to that.
Yeah, yeah. We did episode also.
I think one of the reasons that back then we also were concerned about the all the processing servers being hosted in China, right? And they made
Yeah,
sure to have those servers hosted in US and the EU region after that. So yeah,
yeah. But now after like 2025, I think the way Zoom took over the market or space of video conferencing or video calling, Microsoft and others had to keep up and do had to catch up with Zoom. But now in 2025, Apple's FaceTime is better, WhatsApp video callings are better. Teams actually now really easy to use and it's really populated. Even Google had their own development. So now we can choose like other options or other tools to do the same job. So as end users, we want that part, but like isolating or populating a single idea of easy to use video calling app, that idea was actually mass murdered, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, but as to this day, we are also using Zoom, right? So it's really easy to use, really good when it comes to like audio recording and video recording. Yeah, I think it's thriving in its own space. I think it's cheaper than Teams, so it's better. Like if you are buying Teams, like I don't think that you can buy only Teams, but you have to buy Microsoft other applications that you don't need. But when it comes to Zoom, you can just buy it. So many organizations or many corporations are actually using Zoom also because that's easier to them. Yeah. So back to our topic. Pay here. What pay happened to pay here was they unintentionally their data set was leaked, got leaked online. Roughly estimated 1.5 million user records were compromised, which included like personal emails, IP addresses, and everything. Even credit card details, because some users actually save their credit card information on payment gateways, which you should not do. But they handled that incident really well, and they made public aware about that incident, and they publicly apologized, and they made sure that they took necessary actions or steps to mitigate such incident occurring in future. Yeah, that was like one of the biggest data breaches happened in Sri Lanka, right, Maja?
yeah,
That we know of. That we know of.
yeah.
So yeah, so now we just wanted to like give you like a background idea that what happened with Cargills Bank more recently was not the only thing that happened in Sri Lanka. So we can't just like put them against a wall and saying that this is the first time that happened in Sri Lanka. What you guys are doing, this is not the first time. Even Pygmy had some certain issues with their data. But let's talk about more recent one, Cargills Bank incident. Kanishka, what happened with Cargills Bank?
Yep. So to be honest, like we were able to like we don't have any kind of exclusive access to any information where public doesn't know about that. Still, we did the same research as we did using the publicly available information. So according to the public and the timeline that we have identified was that in March 2025, a ransomware group called Hunters International. So they had access the bank system, and I think probably they have since they are like a ransomware group, probably they have encrypted some of the information or data belonging to bank, and probably they have asked for a ransom in order to release that. Bank was not really like being cooperative, therefore they have leaked all the information related to bank. And like when it comes to pay here incident, there were only 1.5 million user records. I think if we can find round up to that into a number of the size of data, I'm thinking, this is my estimation, but I'm thinking like 1.5 million user records, including email addresses, IP addresses. If they are looking for some text records, probably that text file would be around, I'm not sure, 10, 50 MBs, 5, let's say 100 MB, not even 1 GB, I guess. But this particular breach, that data was sizing up to 1.9 terabytes of sensitive data.
Damn.
Like think of the massive size of the data, like 1.9 terabytes, and those data is sensitive, so sensitive it even includes like audit reports of the bank as well, like previous audit reports, what kind of internal audits what they have done, or the external audits, and what were the observations, audit observations, the findings, the external auditors, what they have told or advised to the organization, the bank. Even that type of information has been leaked. So it's like, I don't know, like this is the first time I'm also hearing about a local bank that that got leaked up to that extension, like level of information that's been disclosed. So yeah.
Yeah, it's either Majang, the data set is huge and they don't use any like compression tools because the data users quantity of users are small, the data set is huge, which means either they don't have any data or query optimizations happening on Cargills Bank,
Yeah.
or it's like really huge number of information inside that almost 2 TB storage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is when such the Hunters International that what they did was they wanted a ransom, right?
Yeah.
So, but my point is, Majang, do you remember the episode that we did on Sampath Bank and the scam that happened over there? It got so much media attention that everyone was looking for it, but this went out quietly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really that's really concerning, but I know yeah, why you're not reacting. It's really concerning.
Creepy. It's creepy because most of the time, if this type of a incident happened for somebody else, it should be like that should be like the headlines of the news, right? Because
Hmm.
this is not just like couple of users personally identified by like IP addresses or username or passwords that's been exposed. This is users national identity card photos, license photos, and their physical locations of their homes, and like internal audit reports and people's like loans, mortgages, like lot of sensitive information, and not just like thousands of users. I think probably it's like millions of users who are the actual like customers of the Cargills Bank, and no media said a single word, right? Like creep.
Yeah, we are not sure how that even happened, like how to control like media or news outlet or any social media thing to that level. That was like pretty creepy. At the same time, actually made us scared a little
Yeah.
about that the whole brand and everything, but imagine like the extent of the data, like employee information, even audit reports, even like basic things that should only be stick to a paper, but they got leaked up until like almost 2 TB of data. That's like I can't like imagine the content that they had at that 2 TB of data set. So the thing is the now okay, now that happened, right? Like they ransomware got attacked from Hunters International, and the second thing that I really concerned, Machang, the way Cargills Bank reacted to this, and the way they acknowledged this, and the way they like the way or the steps that they took to mitigate such incidents, right? So did they like publicly acknowledge that there's been a data breach?
The thing is, like, if you're a bank operating in Sri Lanka, there are like couple of not couple dozens of regulations that they need to adhere to, and I think the only reason they have to publish or let the public know about what happened because of the SEC guidelines. And I
Mm-hmm.
think what they did was, without spelling out the depth of this attack or the depth of the particular breach, what they did was initially they have notified the stock exchange of Sri Lanka. That's because they need to, they are legally bound to notify them. So they have notified them, but it's just you know, uh, like it's not a really big thing. They just try to notify it saying this is not a critical thing, we are looking into it likewise. And after a couple of days, what happened was there has been Twitter post regarding, I think that tweet was tweeted by Dinidu, and Dinidu was able to get his hands on this disclosed data. And I think you remember that like there were like NIC, like national identity card numbers, and license screenshots or pictures of license from people who are actually playing a really big role in Sri Lanka's data protection authority and big shots in Sri Lanka's government areas. So they are national ID card numbers, and they are a license, photos of license, that type of things has been posted in Twitter. So that when the public got to know about the depth of this particular breach, and shit hit the fan, right?
Yeah.
So the public got panicked, and a lot of people were tweeting, and sharing the about this incident. And that's only when the bank published a public statement, like a social media post.
Yeah, I just read the public statement. That was like another level of creepiness there, Maja. There were like 5 points, or no, 6 points in that, right? Not gonna like say it out loud. Put the public notice, or if I can find a link, I'll put that link also. They were like 6 points. First one, I'm summarizing this into like my own words. Majan, correct me if I'm wrong. In first point, they're acknowledging that they had such data breach. In second point, they are confirming that there were some bank information among that data. From third point, they are saying that international cybersecurity specialists did an investigation and strengthening the bank's cybersecurity framework, right? In fourth point, bank is saying that they immediately notified regulatories and law enforcement and fully cooperating with their ongoing investigation. And the fifth point, bank is reaching out to individuals basically who got impacted from this data breach. And from the last point, they are making a statement, important statement, saying that their cooperations remain full, secure, and functional. So they don't share any information regarding like how this happened. They are still, I'm not sure, but in my perspective, I think they don't even sure about how their data got leaked.
There were so many loopholes in their infrastructure. They don't even pretty sure, like they don't even know where to start, man. Like you've seen some incident reports, right? Udara, like in CrowdStrike and in PayHere,
Yeah.
they also have their detailed incident report. What happened? When was it happened? Who did that? And what was their like initial investigation? And right now, if there have been some sort of, it can be after 5 or 10 years after the incident, which is related to that particular incident. If there's an update, they will post it. So that is how like an incident report is going to be published, right? So
Yeah.
this thing is really creepy, and it's omitting a lot of critical information to the public. And they are saying the bank is reaching out individually to identify impacted stakeholders. So they are saying stakeholders, not employees or users or something like that. But still, are you like, they lost like they disclosed 1.9 terabytes of data, and I'm pretty sure like it's like all of the bank's users.
Yeah, because when it comes to bankings in Sri Lanka, Cargills Bank, not even, I don't think it's on like top three even.
Yeah,
So I think when it comes to 1.9 TB means that's their whole user base, right? It should be, I mean. So the thing is, I remember back in the day was the data breach with PlayStation and Sony. Their public statement was like this, comparing to this what this bullshit Cargills Bank put out to the public. I clearly remember Sony acknowledging the date that they got hacked, right? Let's say it's 1st of January 2025. Then they shared the date that they identified, oh shit, we've been hacked. It was like 14 days, I think. After 14 days, they knew. They publicly shared this much. In 1st of January, they got hacked. 14th of January, they knew. It's the date that they found out that they've been hacked. Then they shared the timeline of their investigation and the day that they actually identified the loophole, the incident, what actually happened, and after the exact date and the things that they did to mitigate such things happening in further, and the way that they compensation share the rewards or the bounty for the things that they haven't even disclosed yet. I remember they went up to like $1 million for any clue or evidence regarding their data breach, and they made sure that their users are getting fully refunded at the hack time period. They were like anonymous transaction happening through PlayStation's account, so they acknowledged that they took all the damage and they totally refunded all the transaction amounts to their users. uh, and then they, after like 2 to 3 months, they identified the hackers and they publicly shared that these guys did the hack and we are bringing them to court over this, but our users are now in a more safe place, more safe system, and all the losses that they face were refunded. That was like really damage to their brand, but they acknowledged it and they did the right thing. But look at what Cargill's Bank is saying. Imagine that bank is calling you and asking whether you got hacked. We just wanted to confirm like what's going on.
Yeah.
This was really bad. This was really bad. But I thought that Sampath Bank scam was bad and they did not handle that incident properly. But comparing to this Mahjong, it's on another level.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they took like a court order to stop the like to get a mandate from all the internet service providers in Sri Lanka from their users, us, preventing us from accessing that data. All right, and it's really stupid because we have VPNs and we have, even though our VPN can be blocked, even though like there's something called an onion network, right? So I'm not sure whether how they are going to block that, how they are going to prevent others from getting like accessing it. And I do you remember, Udara, there was kind of a incident back then. I think when President Maithripala Sirisena was in Sri Lanka, they blocked social media,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
all of the people got downloaded VPNs and they accessed Facebook or social media anyway.
Hmm.
That that blocking of social media, it got to the public ears, and even though they don't need to access Facebook or social media, the ones who are not using social media day to day, they were also like prone to download a VPN and access this producing a VPN. So that type of action, that type of behavior is going to be happen in this particular scenario as well, because that Cargills Bank incident, the public wasn't aware of it, but they got to know about it after that particular court order that has been given, and they were asked to internet service provider to block us from accessing that data. And I think I'm pretty sure all of the techie guys and everybody who got access or everybody got who heard about this particular incident, they were right now they were digging into that data, pretty sure using some sort of a onion network and using an onion browser. They were probably accessing these data and must have access to those. There are thousands of people who are out there right now who's having access to that data. And there, within those data, there are people like there were files with
Hmm.
interviews, whether they are selected or not, what is the reason behind whether they are not get got selected. And I read a post, they're saying those reasons were not even professional, were so damn unprofessional reasons, with like saying there's a girl, she's not promoted not because she's pregnant, or like they were like some internal political related shit, and there were a lot of unprofessional stuff going back and forth, and even that type of data has been leaked. So like, what again?
So how? I mean, why? I don't. I'm not sure whether like. Okay, let's bring this down a notch, right? So in Sri Lanka, there were like banks that really reputed, right? So I just wanted to confirm something. When did actually Cargill's Bank started?
Not sure.
I just wanted to confirm this. It started in 2024.
24.
It yes, sorry, 2014.
14.
Sorry, yeah, 14. So it's just like almost more than 10 years, right? Imagine I'm asking you to start a bank. So you have like all the infrastructure and all the money that connections and everything. You just had to put together a bank. You just have basically have the other banks in Sri Lanka and what they have implemented. You just have to start a bank because you have this all the supermarkets, so you can put out a small like counter for your bank and you are good to go. That what they had to do. They just had to do a better thing at being present in online and just copy what other banks do. But imagine having such data breach and hiding that from public to like protect your brand image. It's like another level of what do you call this? I'm not sure about the word that I call this, what that I should call this, because they were not in the banking space. They just want to get money from the people, start the bank, and what they all care about their brand value and not users' data, or users' privacy, or users' safety. I'm not sure whether this anyone who's using Cargills Bank should use that bank further. I'm not sure, Maja, because I'm a long time user of Sampath Bank and I'm still using Sampath Bank even after that scam and everything because they did something that okay, it's okay. Everything is technology, things are bound to happen and we move on. We should make sure that this will not happen in future, right?
Yeah.
But hiding it and protecting the brand value, that's like really messed up
Yeah.
level of corporate world, right?
The the information that's been disclosed, those information gives out the real reason why the bank was behaving that way, and right after the incident, bank is still behaving that way without accepting any kind of accountability for what happened. And even after when we did the research into these information that's been disclosed, I think it's pretty obvious why this happened, and it's pretty obvious why the bank is behaving this way. So yeah, it's like it's mayhem.
Hmm.
Not sure like how this has been functioning for this long, but it was like a ticking time bomb that was going to be going off, and it went off.
Even like a random person like from Twitter have that information means something, right? So it's like really messed up. I think I personally believe is if something put out to be on online, you can just remove that from online, right?
Yeah.
You just had to accept that and acknowledge that and do something to make sure that it will not happen in future. Re-establish the connection that you had with certain person. So in this case, Cargills Bank does not do any of these things, I think, rather than protecting their own brand or brand value. This is like really messed up when it comes to. I'm okay if this is like a certain company or certain supermarket. I'm okay. But this is a bank, right? This is like people put their money to be kept as a safe place to protect their own belongings. So this is really bad.
I think like that in their statement they said their banks cooperate operations remain fully secure and functional. Right. I think the only reason for that is their payment gateway related stuff. Those are being outsourced. I think it's been outsourced to Sampath Bank. I'm not sure about the actual bank, but whatever the payments related online transaction related, that data that's been processed in other servers, not their own servers. If that's been processed in their own servers, I'm pretty sure that's going to be really, it's going to be like a really huge disaster if they are being responsible for that also.
Yeah, like it's like they know what to do, right? But if you don't know how to do, if you don't know about a thing or certain task to do, you just can outsource it or like ask from someone else or follow someone else methods and procedures, which they already did with the payment gateway, right? But they are not acknowledging the loopholes or the mistakes that happen from their end, right? So this is really bad, Masha. This is really, really bad. So yeah, let's move on from this. Like this is really bad, but I think this podcast will be a help if you're a Cargills Bank customer. We are not saying to leave that bank and move on with another bank. We are just not doing it, but we are asking you to think about what happened. We are living in 2025. A lot of things are online nowadays. You think about the facts that we discussed today, and you decide whether to move ahead with this bank or moving to another bank. That's like another disclaimer that we don't want to tarnish the brand or anything or damage the brand, but we are just basically spitting out the facts on the incident and the way that things.
You mean during an incident?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically they, like, first of all, it's not only the bank's reputations at stake but also users privacy and sensitive information. Those are being at stake as well. Because if someone needs to mimic or create a fake profile of a person which is belonging into this particular data breach, they can easily do that. They have their pictures, they have their names, they have their living physical addresses of their homes, telephone numbers, everything. Even though, let's say, I'm assuming like there are people who have more than one banking account, probably not in Cargill Bank, some other banks as well, and that if someone else needs to access those bank as well, they might be able to get it done because all of the personally identified information are out there, right? So it is the bank's duty in order to at least be honest about what happened and maintain some sort of a transparency between what happened and what they're actually currently doing, right? And if they did that, will, like, even though the situation is fucked up, it will give the users or the end users or the public saying, all right, bank is like taking accountability and they are actually currently working on towards a real solution for this particular problem, because shit happens, right? This is not the first time that's a bank that been breached in Sri Lanka. That type of shit happens. So that type of they might be able to like do a pretty good job on accountability and finding a new solution, but they haven't done that. Number one thing is to notify the public and do the investigation to figure out, and also to reduce the blast radius, right? Because there's been an attack and the data has been breached. Right now, to do is to reduce the damage, right? They might be able to do something like that. So I'm thinking in their statement they have mentioned saying they are advising, taking advices from international cybersecurity professionals to address the situation. Probably right now they are doing some sort of reducing the blast radius kind of a thing to prevent the thing from becoming into another worse kind of a level. And after that, like, invest some money into the protection of users data and banking operations. That type of advices and that type of findings were also got leaked. Even the external auditors and everyone else advised against the bank, saying that they need to invest and they need to do these type of things. They need to bring this type of practices into the existing operations to protect them. Those were not being supported by the management of the bank. Even that type of comments were in the leaked documents. So it's really, really irony, like crazy.
Yeah, the my opinion on this, Majang, there are a lot of types of many types of like businesses, right? But when it comes to banking, what it basically hold is like a trust with their users, right? Or basically their customers. So imagine like this incident, like you're having a clean white paper and it got crushed, and now you are trying to make it the way it used to be, right? You can't just make that paper back to a clean sheet, right? So since this business is happening with consumers' trust, I think this damage that happened would really make a black mark in their organization's history. But in my opinion, the path they took was to hide this and protect their brand, which is not the way to do things. As Kanishka mentioned also, this is not the first bank to get hacked, right? So there are certain clear ways to protect what's happened. So you just have to acknowledge it and protect it and move on with better solution and better practices. But they didn't do that. Yeah, that what we needed to explain to you guys in this week's episode. So yeah, this is like not the ideal space to get hacked or data leaked online, and the point is having that data to be access to anyone that have internet connection is bad. That level of data breach is really scary, right? Even like the mass data breaches, like the example I took, PlayStation, those data was not available for average users or average like individuals, but this is like on another level. Yeah, Majan. So again, I'm putting out this disclaimer again. So we are not advising you guys to abandon this bank and move on with another one, but we are just pitted out the facts that available and things we have noticed as IT professionals or tech professionals, and especially Kanishka when it comes to security in tech. So yeah, anything else we want to share?
Yep. So we discussed about Zoom and CrowdStrike, that their history, whatever the incident that they had to face, that incident made their whole journey into another area, right? So it was kind of a turning point to those organizations. I hope this incident will be like a turning point to Cargills Bank and as well as the whole banking industry in Sri Lanka when it comes to providing protection to the users' data and also into their banking operations. This will be kind of a eye opener to everybody going forward. Also, users as well, like to think twice before they put their trust on someone else, especially a bank, and do the right thing, right? So it's not too late. Yeah, that's my
Yeah. Yeah, this is like the major thing that we wanted to explain to you guys, or what happened with this Cargill's Bank data breach and everything. To this date, we don't even know how this happened, but with the evidence that we found and the things that we found out, it's basically could be infrastructure issue that they are having with too many loopholes that we are suspecting could be the incident for this data loss or data breach. So it's like 20th of April and still they haven't shared any information regarding how this happened and what are the measures they took to avoid such things in future. So that's concerning too. So again, we are just spitting out the facts, so you can decide whether to move along with this bank, or even if you're not using this bank, if your friend or anyone is using this bank, please share this video to just to make the spread the awareness regarding what happened, regarding the organization that you're using as the most safe place to put your money on, your hard earned money on. So yeah, so I think it's better to like share this with everyone that you know of, or a user of that bank, or need to have the awareness of the incident. Yeah, we have covered all the things that we needed to share with you guys today. Again, this was not the only thing, only data breach or banking hack that happened in most recent years. Basically, it was about the way they handled it. In summary, it was really bad. You can decide with our facts whether saying that they really badly handled this situation. Right, Kashka? There are many good ways to handle such incidents, since this was not the only banking hack happened in the entire world. So yeah, so that's it that we want to discuss this week. Right, Vaja? Another thing, another point I want to highlight at the end, if you're not aware of the bank, Cargills Bank hack or the data breach that happened at their end, one thing, you need to be more aware of the things that are going to happen. The second thing is that bank is really good at hiding certain stuff. Yeah, you decide whether this episode is a good one or bad one. Yeah, we'll put this episode on YouTube as a video episode and video podcast. Also in the description, we'll put all the links that all the evidences we found regarding the commercial bank hack and or the data breach and the statement that they shared. We'll put those links in the description of our video podcast, which will be published on YouTube. If you have any questions or any queries, or if you are a victim of this incident, if you want to know whether you can assure that your data will not be handed over to a third party, just let us know. So you can reach out to us using LinkedIn, even YouTube, or we are really active on LinkedIn. Actually, we prefer LinkedIn over everything. Reach out to us. We will help you, as Kanishka is a cybersecurity professional, well marinated one. Yeah, make this awareness with your friends and colleagues, and hope that such incidents will not happen in future in Sri Lanka, right? Yeah. So see you guys in next episode, right? Jai Veva.
Jaya.
Jai Veva.
Stop kan la balo.
Bye then.
Bye the
Okay.
stopping.